Halfway through watering the basil by my kitchen window, I saw her again, slipping out his side door like shame had a schedule. She didn't look up, didn't need to. The routine was too familiar. Red sweater, silver heels, same shoulder bag. His wife's SUV was still parked out front. I turned off the faucet. Water ran down my wrist and into the sleeve of my flannel, cold and unnoticed. Across the narrow hedges, Trent's car gleamed like a smug little trophy. A two-door Audi he waxed every Sunday, but never drove anywhere important. It had just sat there while he wrecked the trust of two homes. Mine was one of them. Let me back up a little, because no one starts by selling someone's car in silence, not unless you've been building up to it for years. My name's Owen. I'm 42. Divorced, no kids. I own the yellow-sided duplex on Wexford Street. Corner lot, blue mailbox, looks friendlier than it feels. I live on the left. The right belongs to Trent Foster, my neighbor of 8 years, co-worker of 5, and best friend of none anymore. We weren't always like this. Used to trade tools, beers, weekend barbecues. He'd help me haul gravel. I'd fix his busted fence gate. It worked. Quiet. Functional. And then last spring, things got less quiet. It started with the wrong laugh. I was at my kitchen table sorting utility bills when I heard it through the shared wall. A woman's voice, not his wife's. Warmer. Younger. Then footsteps, light and fast. A thud. Muffled laughter. Her saying something like, "You're bad." The kind of thing you say when you don't think anyone's listening. I tried to convince myself it was a relative, maybe a niece. But Trent's family lives in Idaho, and none of them wear perfume like that. The air outside smelled like roses and guilt for 3 days straight. I didn't say anything, just shut the window. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. But over the next few weeks, she came back. Different times, same bag. Trent started leaving the porch light off, like that made it less visible. But I saw. She'd duck behind the hedge, head down, sometimes waiting while he texted from inside. There's a certain quiet in betrayal that's worse than noise. And this was the kind that seeped into everything. I didn't tell his wife. I didn't confront him. I didn't even write an anonymous note like some angry coward might have. I just waited. Not because I was noble, but because something inside me wanted to see how far he'd go when he thought no one was watching. The breaking point came on a Monday. I remember because I was late returning from the DMV, trying to renew my own tags before they expired. I pulled up behind Trent's Audi and noticed the passenger window was cracked. Not rolled down, cracked, like it had been forced. We don't live in a bad neighborhood, but we're not immune to teenagers being stupid either. I got out, walked past the car, and noticed the glove box hanging open. Not my business, but my eye caught something white sticking out. An envelope, marked Tracy's ring receipt. Tracy is Trent's wife. I didn't touch it. I went inside and sat at the kitchen counter, facing the window. And 15 minutes later, I watched as the red sweater girl returned. This time, she used a key. I could have done a lot of things that day. Called the wife, filmed it, left printouts under windshield wipers, all the classics. But I didn't want noise. I wanted precision. I wanted a moment that felt like his own reflection punching him in the face. That's when I remembered the spare key. See, a couple years ago, Trent had asked me to take in some packages while he and Tracy went to Hilton Head. "Here's a spare, just in case," he'd said, tossing the little black Audi key into a plastic cup on my counter. I never returned it. Mostly forgot about it. Until I didn't. Over the next week, I took photos. Dates. Times. Her license plate. Him hugging her behind the garage. Once I caught a shot of them in the driveway, Trent still in his work polo, kissing her like it was nothing. I printed everything, but not for the wife. Not yet. I was building a receipt, but not for Tracy. for me. Because here's the thing about cheating. It's not just who you hurt, it's who you insult. Trent didn't just violate his marriage. He insulted the intelligence of everyone around him. He made our quiet street complicit. And I was done letting him live in that silence without consequence. So I started with paperwork. Stolen vehicle filings are a nightmare, but abandoned property law? That's a different story. Turns out, when someone leaves a vehicle on your property for more than a certain number of days without movement and you document it, you can start a process of claiming it, especially if there's intent to abandon. It's a legal gray area, one I tiptoed into with obsessive care. I didn't plan to profit. I planned to make a point. I took photos of the car each day, logged dates, noted when he left it sitting. I cross-referenced local ordinances. I emailed the HOA under a fake name complaining about the unmoved car lowering property values. Then I filed for a notice of removal with the city. It was ridiculous. Petty, even. But it was mine. The day I put the vehicle subject to towing notice on his windshield, he didn't even look twice. I stood in my kitchen watching him walk by, his coffee in one hand, gym bag in the other. He saw the notice and peeled it off like it was junk mail. Didn't even read it. I smiled into my mug. And here's where things got delicate. I waited for him to leave town. Didn't take long. 3-day work retreat in Asheville. I knew, because he bragged about it on Slack. I called a tow company I had already prepped with documentation and a temporary custodial release form. The guy was skeptical. Wait, this is your neighbor's car? No, I said calmly. It was left on my half of the duplex for over 2 weeks without permission. I have documentation. Is he out of town? Yes. You want to store it with us or sell it? Sell. The paperwork took hours. A DMV visit, 2 notary trips, more forms than I care to recount. I covered all the legal angles I could, used my savings to post the required intent to sell public notice in the classifieds, waited the required 10 days. Trent never noticed. He just Ubered to work and back, like the car was an accessory he forgot he owned. When the sale finalized, I transferred the title to a guy named Matt, who owned a used lot off Route 22. Got way under value. Didn't care. I didn't keep the money. I mailed a cashier's check to Tracy with no return address and no note. Just the words, "for what you missed." Trent still hasn't said a word, and neither have I. The car, gone. His mistress? Who knows? His wife? Moved out last week with her sister's help. 2 suitcases and a toddler I didn't know existed. It was 6:34 on a Thursday morning when Trent finally noticed. Noticed? Not that his wife had moved out, not that his side piece had stopped showing up, not that his gym bag had been sitting untouched in the hall for days, but that the Audi wasn't where he left it. I was in the kitchen again, pretending to sip cold coffee. I saw him step outside in pajama pants and a wrinkled company t-shirt, keys in hand, jaw slack. He blinked at the empty patch of curb like someone had erased a part of his identity, walked in a small circle, checked the street twice, looked up and down. No panic. Not yet. That came later. When he finally knocked on my door, I was already pouring cereal. "Owen," he called, too casual for the situation. "Hey man, you see anyone around my car last night?" I opened the door, keeping the screen closed. He looked rough, bed hair flattened on one side, sleep still in the corners of his eyes. He hadn't shaved, probably hadn't showered either. "No," I said. He squinted, like maybe I was joking. "I parked it right here. You didn't hear anything?" "I don't really pay attention to your side of the driveway." He paused. "You got a camera?" "Nope." He stood there a second too long. I let the silence stretch. "All right," he muttered, scratching his neck. "I guess I'll check the tow logs. Maybe I forgot to renew the tags or something." "Could be." He gave me one more long look, something between suspicion and helplessness, and shuffled back to his door. I shut mine and went back to my cereal, still soggy. For the next 3 days, I watched him unravel. First it was the calls, to the city, to the tow companies, to his wife. I heard one of them through the wall. "No, I'm not asking for a ride, Tracy. I'm just... What do you mean you're not coming back?" "Tracy?" "Hello?" Then it was the emails. I know, because he used to print things out and leave them on the shared printer shelf we both used in the hallway. I passed by once and saw a page that said Certificate of Title Replacement, State of NC, half crumpled and smudged with a coffee ring. Then came the drinking. Light at first, a few beers on the stoop, then bottles clinking louder in the trash. The kind of drinking that starts at dusk and doesn't stop until the porch light burns out. But the part that really landed, the part that made me sit back and realize I'd underestimated how hollow a man can become, was the afternoon he sat on the curb, where the Audi used to be, and cried into his hands. I saw it through the blinds, and I felt nothing. Look, I'm not a sadist. I don't enjoy seeing people wreck themselves. I don't celebrate tears. But when those tears come after months of deceit, when they follow the smirks, the covered tracks, the smug morning after nods, you start to feel like the universe finally remembered its job. Still, something in me paused. I didn't expect the crying. Didn't know if it was about the car, the mistress, or Tracy finally cutting the cord. Maybe all of it. Maybe the sudden realization that consequences are cumulative, that you don't get to keep skating through life without losing traction eventually. That weekend, my cousin Blake came over. He's a mechanic, runs a small shop over in Cary. "You really sold it?" he asked, wiping grease from his hands after we finished installing new storm windows. "Yup." "And he hasn't figured it out?" "Nope." Blake let out a low whistle. "Damn, you always were the quiet one." "That's the point." He gave me a look. "You know, not everyone would call that justice. Some people would say that's theft." "Then they haven't lived next to Trent Foster for 8 years. He smirked, then got serious. "What if he finds out?" I shrugged. "Then he finds out." That night, Trent tried to talk again. He knocked, harder this time. "Owen, come on, man. You sure you didn't see anything? I swear I locked it. I think it was stolen." I opened the door and leaned against the frame. "You file a report?" "Yeah." "They find anything?" "No plate hits yet. Said it might have been chopped already." "Damn. Sorry, man." He looked at me, his eyes a little glazed. "You know, Tracy left me, took Jackson and everything." I didn't ask who Jackson was. He went on, "She said she knew about everything, even called me a walking cliche. Said she was done playing second fiddle to a midlife crisis. Sounds like she had a lot on her chest." He gave a bitter laugh. "Guess I earned that." I didn't answer. He took a breath like he was about to say something else. Maybe an apology. Maybe a confession. But he stopped. Instead he said, "You ever lose something important, and you don't even realize until it's already halfway down the drain?" I looked at him. Really looked. And then I said, "Yeah, that's usually when people start paying attention." After that, Trent stopped knocking, stopped asking, stopped showing up to work for a while, too. I heard from mutual coworkers that he was taking some personal days. Word was, Tracy had finally filed papers. The side girl had ghosted him after finding out about the kid, and the Audi, still officially listed as missing. Meanwhile, I went on with my life. I replanted the front garden, took on an extra freelance contract, went on a couple of quiet dates with a woman from the dog park. I'd wake up, make coffee, stand at the window, and see his blinds drawn. Porch light off, driveway empty. It was strange how quickly silence became peaceful again. A week later, I got a call. Blocked number, no voicemail. Then another. Then a text. We need to talk. I know. No name, no punctuation, but I knew. You always seemed like the fair type. That was the message. No punctuation, no name, just that single line, sent from a new number, no contact photo. I stared at it for a long while. Coffee cooling by my elbow, sun barely rising. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Fair didn't mean passive, and fair didn't mean silent. That Saturday, I heard him outside again, not pacing this time, packing. Boxes slid across the porch floor. Something thudded hard enough to make the siding vibrate. I stepped onto my stoop with a mug in hand, purely out of habit. He didn't look over. A beat-up red hatchback, definitely not the Audi, was parked at the curb. His friend Mason's, probably. The guy with the beard and the permanently dislocated shoulder. I hadn't seen him since the barbecue 2 years ago, where Trent pretended he didn't forget my name mid-toast. Now, he was shoving duffels into the back seat and talking fast into his phone, his voice low but clipped. I told you, I didn't do anything illegal. It's not about the car, it's about the way it happened. Click. He turned and froze when he spotted me. I nodded once. He nodded back. That was the last conversation we ever had. The silence after he left was heavy but clean. His side of the duplex stayed empty for 2 weeks. The porch light never flicked on. No Amazon packages dropped. No late-night giggles through the walls. The landlord eventually came by, saw the spare key taped to the door, and sighed like he'd known this was coming. A couple of days later, a for rent sign went up. I didn't ask who would move in next. Didn't care. I was tired of reading people like property lines. But something unexpected did happen a week after Trent left. A letter arrived. No return address, just my name handwritten in small, neat print on a cream envelope. Inside, a folded sheet from a legal pad. No header, no signature. Just 5 lines. You didn't scream. You didn't preach. But you took what I valued more than I knew. I get it now. Fair isn't always gentle. Sometimes fair is just precise. I read it twice, then set it on the counter. Didn't burn it, didn't crumple it, just left it there until the coffee ring blurred the ink. I thought that was the end of it. But 2 days later, I ran into Tracy. Well, Tracy and Jackson. They were at the park 3 blocks down, the one with the wood chip playground and the rusted swings. Jackson was maybe 5, in a red hoodie, throwing handfuls of mulch like they were confetti. Tracy sat on a bench, sunglasses on, arms folded, but I could tell by the way she held herself, tighter, more inward, that she was still recalibrating what safety meant. I almost kept walking. But she saw me and nodded, a soft one, not polite, grateful, like she knew. And maybe she did. Maybe the check I mailed her had done more than settle a score. Maybe it gave her momentum, or maybe she'd already been packing emotionally, and I just gave her the final push. She didn't say anything. Neither did I, but the silence was different this time. Not heavy, just understood. A few nights later, I found myself in the garage digging through old toolboxes, looking for something. Maybe the past, maybe closure. My hands brushed against the small plastic key fob, the spare Audi key. Still there, wedged between a rusted wrench and a box of finishing nails. I held it for a long time. Thought about mailing it back. Thought about burying it in the backyard, like some kind of ritual. In the end, I dropped it into the bottom of a locked drawer. Because some symbols are better left untouched once they've served their purpose. By month's end, a new tenant moved in next door. Young couple, mid-30s, freshly married by the looks of the monogrammed his/hers doormat and the twin bikes on the porch. She wore scrubs. He walked their golden retriever like it was training for a dog show. One evening, I offered to help them carry in a shelf from the trunk. He smiled, thanked me, asked what I did for work. I told him freelance IT. Simple. Easy. He didn't press. She offered me banana bread 2 days later. Real, not box mix. I took it with both hands. Life settled. Not perfectly, but cleaner. I fixed a leak in the upstairs shower. Reorganized the basement. Started reading again before bed instead of scrolling. Even got into sourdough like a cliche. But I didn't forget. Not the sound of her heels in the gravel. Not the way Trent peeled off the notice like lint. Not the calloused silence between me and a man who used to share beer recipes and football Sundays. Because silence isn't empty. It's just patient. Then, one morning, about 2 months later, I checked my P.O. box, habit from when I used to do odd jobs that paid by mail, and found another envelope. Same cream paper, same tidy handwriting. Inside a title, transfer slip, signed, stamped, dated 3 weeks earlier, along with a note. Consider this closure. No loose ends. Thanks for not being louder than you needed to be. Underneath that, a sticky note. P.S. Jackson starts school next fall. I told him Mr. Owen next door likes dogs and tells the truth. The for rent sign was gone now, replaced by flower pots and a wind chime shaped like a crescent moon. Sunlight hit the porch just right in the morning, making the new neighbor's welcome mat glow like a soft invitation. But I still kept my curtains half drawn. Not out of paranoia, just habit. Because even in peace, you don't forget the shape of disruption. It had been over a month since the second envelope. The title transfer had made everything official, clean, legal. But a strange restlessness had started curling at the edge of my quiet. Not regret, not guilt, just space. The kind that opens up when you finish something big and realize you've been organizing your life around someone else's chaos. Now the chaos was gone, and I wasn't sure what to do with the quiet. Around that time, I got a call from Blake again. "You still got that contractor's saw?" he asked. "Yeah, want it back?" "Nah, I just wanted to see if you still remembered I lent it to you." I laughed. "You think I forgot?" "I think you're one of those guys who remembers everything and pretends he doesn't." He paused. "Hey, listen, I've got a job up in Chapel Hill. Couple wants a porch redone. Thought maybe you'd want in, split labor, split cost." I hesitated. "Don't you already have a guy for that?" "Yeah, but I trust you." 2 weeks later, I was loading up the truck. The project was simple. Raise the deck, replace warped boards, add a railing with crossbeams. But the rhythm of work, the predictability of measurements, of screws biting into fresh wood, felt like therapy. The couple was older, kind. The husband offered lemonade every afternoon. The wife reminded me of my mother in the way she always asked, "Are you wearing sunscreen?" By the third day, I realized I'd gone 24 hours without thinking about Trent. That felt like progress. That same week, something strange showed up on my doorstep. A padded envelope. No return address. Inside, a small USB drive and a Post-it note with one sentence. "You should see this." No signature. No clues. My heart didn't race. But something behind my ribs tightened in a slow, coiling way. I sat down at my desk, plugged it in, and opened the only file inside. A video, time-stamped from about 6 months ago. Security camera footage. I recognized the driveway immediately. Trent's, back when the Audi still sat smug and untouched. The video showed the girl, red sweater, silver heels, walking out the door. Not unusual, but she didn't leave. She walked around to the side of the car, opened the passenger door, and reached under the seat. Seconds later, she came out holding a manila envelope. She opened it, glanced inside, and smiled. Then got in the car and drove off. Except, here's the thing. Trent never let her drive the Audi. I watched it 3 times. Then again, I cross-referenced the timestamp with the day the ring receipt envelope was sticking out of the glove box. Same day. So either she stole it or he gave it to her. But why? To keep it hidden from Tracy or to keep Tracy hidden from her? My stomach twisted the way it used to when I worked tech support and stumbled across emails I wasn't supposed to see. There was always that moment, the one where you realize you now know something you can't unknow. I pulled the drive, tucked it in the bottom drawer beside the old Audi key, and closed it. 3 days passed. No new packages, no follow-ups. I almost convinced myself it was a prank, that maybe someone from the neighborhood had pieced together what happened and decided to mess with me. Then, Saturday morning, a letter came. Hand-delivered. No stamp. Taped to my screen door with blue painter's tape. Inside, 3 sheets of printed emails between Trent and a lawyer. Subject lines: separation options, custody timeline, asset disclosure. But one stood out. Dated 2 weeks before I had the Audi towed. Trent to his lawyer: there's no formal ownership record on the Audi. It's still in my father's name. If it disappears, technically it's not traceable back to me. Tracy's too focused on the kid anyway. I just need the car gone before she sees the envelope again. I stared at that line so long I could have recited it in my sleep. Before she sees the envelope again. So he knew it was missing. He knew someone else had it, and he didn't try to get it back, which meant he wanted it gone. He wanted me to take it. That night, I poured a whiskey and sat on the back steps. The air smelled like honeysuckle and lawn fertilizer. The kind of scent that makes you remember summer evenings from when you were a kid and thought everything would eventually make sense. I sipped and thought back. To Trent's nonchalant reaction. To the way he peeled off the tow notice like it was trash. To the lack of police report. To the title transfer that showed up after he vanished. And I realized something chilling. This whole time, I thought I'd orchestrated the revenge. But maybe he let me. Maybe he handed me the rope and watched me tie the knot. Because in losing that car, he got rid of evidence. In letting me carry the weight of justice, he washed his own hands of consequence. He lost a car, but he buried a secret. And I'd helped. I didn't sleep much that night. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I pulled the USB and the printed emails, put them in a manila folder, wrote Tracy's name on it in thick black Sharpie, drove 3 towns over, left it with the receptionist at the realty firm her sister worked at. No return address, no note, just a folder, just the truth. Because even if I'd been a pawn, that didn't mean I had to stay one. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, voicemail only. I played it on speaker while folding laundry. Owen, you should have just let sleeping dogs lie. But then again, that's not your style, is it? It's okay. Just know you're not the only one who knows how to move pieces quietly. Click. Nothing else. Just those words. And a silence that didn't feel clean anymore. The folder felt humid against my thigh as I drove. Not damp, just warm, like the heat had soaked through from the dashboard vents. I kept my hand on it the whole time, not because I didn't trust it to stay put, but because it grounded me. Paper has a weight memory doesn't. I'd dropped it off 2 days ago. No return address, no note. Just Tracy's name scrawled across the manila in black Sharpie. And now I had a voicemail in Trent's voice that sounded too calm to be casual. You're not the only one who knows how to move pieces quietly. My first reaction wasn't fear. It was clarity. I went back inside and locked the deadbolt. Not out of paranoia, out of principle. Then I poured a drink, iced coffee this time, and sat at the table, facing the window where the Audi used to be. The wind picked up. The new neighbor's wind chime twitched. Sunlight cut through the blinds like a time lapse. I'd thought I'd ended the story by removing his car. Thought I'd served justice in silence. thought that revenge didn't need to be loud to be complete. But Trent's voicemail changed the narrative. He wasn't broken. He just shifted boards on the chessboard. And now, I had to decide if I wanted to keep playing. It didn't take long before the next ripple hit. 3 days later, I got a notice in the mail. City code violation. Improper boundary landscaping. Obstruction of shared utility access. It came with a fine. $65. Trivial. Except I hadn't touched the hedges since last fall. And they hadn't grown far enough to block anything. I walked outside with a tape measure. The hedges were well within the setback guidelines. I checked those codes when I first moved in. Someone had filed a false complaint. Not the new neighbors. They waved at me that morning with lemon muffins in hand. This had fingerprints all over it. Quiet retaliation, like Trent had left traps that were just now springing. I spent the next few days tying off loose ends, cleared the hedge, just in case, took dated photos, filed an appeal. Then I checked my credit report. Clean. I checked my car insurance. No new claims. Utilities, subscriptions, email logins, everything fine. Too fine. Then, a week later, my old boss from the IT firm called. "Hey, Owen," he said casually. "Got a weird call from a background check agency. They were verifying an old complaint from 3 years back." My throat went dry. "There wasn't one," I said. "Yeah, I know that," he replied. "But someone flagged your personnel file as having disciplinary notes for data mishandling. It's not there. Never was. But it nearly cost you that government contract referral. Did they say where the flag came from?" He hesitated. "No. Anonymous." That night, I took a long walk. Not to cool off, to think. Trent was gone. Out of state, last I heard. But that didn't mean his reach was gone. Digital revenge is a funny thing. You don't have to be close to be effective. You just need a few breadcrumbs, an old login, a forgotten password reset, a copy of someone's resume floating around. And Trent had been in IT too. That was how we'd met. I thought about doing what I always did. Silence, documentation, quiet correction. But something in me shifted. Maybe it was the voicemail. Maybe it was the code violation. Or maybe it was just the weight of knowing I'd tried to play fair in a game he'd already turned sideways. So I made a choice. Not escalation, just precision. I called an old friend, Lyle, with a small firm downtown. He worked compliance and digital forensics for corporate legal cases. Quiet guy, ex-Army, ran 2 phones and kept receipts for everything. We met for lunch at a Thai place halfway between our neighborhoods. I brought printouts, backup drives, the USB, the email screenshots, and I told him the whole story, start to finish. No embellishment, no edits, just the truth. He listened, took notes, asked one question. "Do you want a lawsuit or a paper trail?" I said, "A trail. Something that follows him longer than noise." He nodded and slid his notepad across the table. Then we start with metadata. Over the next 2 weeks, I helped Lyle compile a dossier, not for court, for history. We traced the false flag in the background system back to a masked IP tied to a VPN exit node in Asheville. Lyle had contacts who could narrow down behavior profiles. He found a shared digital fingerprint that matched old Slack metadata from when Trent and I worked together. It wasn't airtight, but it was enough. Enough to quietly inform the contracting firm that there had been attempted defamation. Enough to tag Trent's name in their internal risk list. Not public, but permanent. That was all I wanted. Not fire, not fury, just gravity. Just proof that silence doesn't mean weakness, that there are men who won't shout when wronged, who won't slash tires or burn bridges, but will watch you burn your own rope. Last week, I got one final envelope. This one was stamped, mailed from out of state. No name. Inside, a Polaroid of Trent, leaning against a rental sedan, smiling. Same smug grin. The caption scrawled underneath, "No strings left." I flipped it over. Blank. And then I laughed. For real this time. Not bitter, not triumphant, just the sound of someone who finally understood the difference between silence and surrender. So that's it. I never confronted him. I never raised my voice. I just took the car. Then the truth. Then his peace of mind. All without saying a word. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.